2026 is set to be an absolutely stacked year for games, and I've got 26 games lined up to share with you that I am excited to see more of this year. And whilst this channel mainly focuses on Nintendo, this list is actually from all platforms, not just the Switch 2. So what do you say? Should we just get on with it and get to them games? For the first time in over 10 years, we're getting a new Rhythm Heaven game with Rhythm Heaven Groove. The series is known for its weird and strange minigames, all based around rhythm and completing actions in time with the beat. These games have always reminded me of WarioWare games, and both the structure of being a collection of crazy minigames and the strange art style. Hopefully we won't have to wait too long into 2026 before we get more information on this zany title. That's right, Tomodachi Life is back. Nintendo hasn't done much with the Miis lately, but the 3DS era had several games starring you as a Mii. Whilst I didn't get to play the original game, it looks very similar to Animal Crossing, but a lot, and I can't stress this enough, a lot weirder. You are in charge of an island where you get to choose who lives there, create Miis based on family, friends, or whoever, and invite them to live on your island paradise. Complete tasks for your residents and grow your friendships whilst expanding the island. The original title is known for its quirky, often humorous, and unpredictable elements, so look out for this game hitting the Switch on the 16th of April. It's not hard to see Project Bloomwalker's inspirations. It has Studio Ghibli written all over it, and that's not just the art style. Project Bloomwalker has you playing as a Bloomwalker, and as such, you're tasked with healing nature and bringing harmony to the world. It's a cozy, crafting adventure game that will see you befriending spirit companions called Oddlings, but you'll explore the land accompanied by your magical moving house, similar to Ghibli's Howl's Moving Castle, but on a much smaller and more manageable scale. Purify and heal the world on a magical adventure with Project Bloomwalker, set to release sometime in 2026 for both PC and Xbox, and probably expect a Game Pass launch for this too. The original Control is incredible. I really love it so very much. And I've been eagerly anticipating the next game, but when we got our first look, I wasn't exactly impressed. On top of the fact I couldn't get through Alan Wake 2 because I felt it controlled so very badly. It genuinely seemed almost impossible to actually aim in that game. Control Resonance seems to have an action melee style combat that doesn't look too dissimilar to Devil May Cry, and it even has some aesthetic similarities too. I'm not writing this off just yet, and I hope to have my mind changed when we see more and get a firmer release date than the 2026 window. The immediate comparison to Poketopia is, of course, Animal Crossing. However, it may share a bit more in common with something like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley. You play as a Ditto that takes on human form. Don't, I'm looking at you, don't. Just don't. As this humanoid Ditto, you set out to shape an empty land into a beautiful sanctuary for wild Pokemon. And being a Ditto, this allows you to mimic their form or moves to use to explore and further shape the land. Some of these resident Pokemon will have tasks or problems for you to solve by either crafting, producing, or shaping the land in certain ways. With several biomes to explore, here's hoping Poketopia features your favourite Pokemon, launching the 5th of March exclusively on Nintendo Switch 2. I'm a big fan of the character Yoshi. I play as one in Mario Party and Mario Kart, and I'm excited to see more Yoshi adventures coming our way. But in recent years, Yoshi games have been a simpler, more inviting adventure that's more accessible for younger players, which is great. I have a young son that has a huge love for Mario and will probably love to play this game. But for me, it may be a little light to get truly excited about. Playing as Yoshi, you dive into a mysterious book named Mr. E, after it suddenly falls from the sky. With its pages filled with peculiar creatures, you'll make all sorts of discoveries exploring the pages and many encounters with these unusual creatures. Look out for this Yoshi adventure coming spring 2026. I'm not a huge fan of From Software games, but it is very hard to deny their appeal. Even with me not loving the ones I've played, I do find myself drawn to each new announcement, and the Duskbloods is no exception. It's another incredible looking dark fantasy game set in a bewitching steampunk world with some not so subtle English inspirations, where you play as a Bloodsworn, a vampire-like creature that possesses unique weapons and abilities. Gameplay revolves around PvP that supports 8 players, but also includes PvE or player versus environment gameplay, with the ultimate goal being to acquire the first blood. As a side note, even though I didn't love Elden Ring, I find myself wanting to give it another go, and with the upcoming Switch 2 release of the Tarnished Edition, it seems the perfect opportunity to jump back in. Both the Duskbloods and Elden Ring Tarnished Edition will be released in 2026. Level 5 has a long history of delaying games for years, and Decapolice is no different. Originally slated for 2023, this crime suspense RPG follows a rookie detective named Harvard as he hunts down criminals in a huge open-world, crime-ridden city. So, kind of like Batman, the hunt for these criminals will take Harvard between reality and virtual reality as he investigates virtual space. Not a lot more has been said on it, but the visuals appeal, and crime suspense RPG sounds absolutely like my sort of thing. Hopefully, this will also get a Switch 2 release, as it's currently only confirmed for the original Switch. Supposed to be coming in 2026, but I wouldn't be too surprised if there were further delays for this title. As I was writing the script for this video, they dropped a new trailer for Mario Wonder Switch 2 Edition plus Meet Up in Bellabelle Park, and it looks really great. I'm not sure how I feel about the focus being on multiplayer, but the gameplay all looks crazy and fun in equal measures. The return of the Koopa Kids is also a big plus for me, not only because I like Ludwig, Morton and Roy and the whole crew, but because my biggest critique of Mario Wonder is its less than great selection of boss battles. Additions such as the Toad Brigade training camp and the inclusion of both Rosalina and Luma as playable characters are also very welcome indeed. So watch out for the Koopa Kids when this expansion arrives on the 26th of March. A side-scrolling platformer, The Eternal Life of Goldman, has absolutely stunning, beautifully realised visuals and animation. Whilst it doesn't utilise the rubber hose style animation seen in Cuphead, it is hard not to think of Cuphead when looking at this game. There's a retro, old school quality to it, and its incredible animation and art style that are completely hand-drawn. I assume that means in a traditional way rather than digital. They drew it, then scanned it in. One of the key mechanics on show is utilising Goldman's walking stick that allows you to bounce and destroy enemies, similar to the DuckTales game from 1989. Its art style alone is enough to draw me in, but the gameplay looks clean and fluid, and it seems it could have quite a quirky and interesting narrative. The Eternal Life of Goldman is slated for a 2026 release, but don't be too surprised if it slips to 2027. Keep an eye out for more information. A 3D Metroidvania with N64/PS1 inspired graphics? Sign me up right now. Abyss Cross Zero promises players they can explore an expansive world, featuring carefully crafted dungeons and stylish combat. You take control of 2 separate characters that are fated to battle one another. These characters have unique abilities that not only change the way you fight, but also the way you interact with the environment. This game has a lot of style, and it may just have the substance too. I think it looks stunning. It plays great homage to 3D polygonal games of the 90s without shackling themselves to the same limitations. It is another title listed with a 2026 release date, but it could slip to 27 or even beyond. But make sure to keep an eye on this and support this small studio. Mouse PI for Hire takes the rubber hose style of animation that made Cuphead famous and then blends it with a black and white noir detective setting, and a boomer shooter style FPS akin to Duke Nukem or Doom for good measure. This creates something that looks so goofy, unique and over the top it's almost impossible not to be interested by this title. Whilst I'm not a huge first-person shooter fan, I do enjoy Doom and similar old-school style shooters, and this seems to have that and an abundance of style and charm that definitely appeal to me. Look out for this when it launches on the 19th of March this year on all platforms. In recent years, I've gotten more and more interested in roguelike games, and thanks to Hyrule Warriors, I'm no stranger to Musou games either. Tears of Metal seems to blend these two genres against a Scottish medieval fantasy backdrop, and incredibly stylistic graphics that are fairly well realised. But the 2D art in the menus and dialogue are really well executed, and have a sort of children's folk story look to them that I personally adore. Tears of Metal is currently set for a PC-only release sometime in 2026. Inkonbini looks to be a cozy narrative game where you play as a college student working in a small-town convenience store in Japan of the 1990s. Whilst completing tasks in the store, such as serving customers and restocking shelves, that reminds me a little of the wonderful game Unpacking, the actual main focus of the game seems to be the customers themselves. Learn their stories and make choices and dialogue options that promise to have meaningful impact in a bid to help your regular customers find the items they need and the problems in their life. Look out for Inkonbini One Store Many Stories when it hopefully launches April 2026. We're sticking with the 90s setting now, but moving over to Poland with Holstin. Described as a psychological survival horror game that sort of reminds me of PS1 era Resident Evil titles, it has a fantastic pixelated look and a really dark and moody setting. The game takes place in a small town overcome by some sort of calamity that begins to consume everyone and everything that it touches. You play as a character attempting to find his friend after losing contact with them. Retrace their steps to find them and get out before this town overwhelms you too. But its real trick comes when it switches from its generally isometric viewpoint to an over-the-shoulder view when you aim your gun. But we also see more gameplay of side-scrolling and top-down viewpoints too. I'm always thrilled and excited when a video game messes with our expectations in the way we play, and hopefully Holstin does that to unsettle our expectations to magnify its survival horror genre. We've got 3 for 1 now with some amazing looking fighting games coming in 2026. Invincible Versus takes the Invincible universe and makes the characters do what they do best. Mayhem, blood, destruction, and father-son trauma. The visuals look great, the fighting looks to have a similar style to Mortal Kombat games, and it also boasts a unique character made exclusively for this game. Avatar: The Last Airbender is getting a fighting game that looks really great. The show is so accurately represented through the visuals, and we're bringing in characters from Korra too. Hopefully we'll also get content updates to tie into the new shows and movies this franchise is getting. But above all, I hope it's a really solid fighter. And my most anticipated fighting game is Marvel Tekken Fighters from Arc System Works. This game looks great, giving the Marvel heroes an anime makeover to give us a really individualistic feel compared to the ocean of Marvel content we're getting. Early impressions, however, haven't been the best, but I was a big fan of Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I'm confident that Arc System Works can nail the landing. Hopefully more information and better looks at these games will be arriving soon before their release in 2026. As of recording this, there was a state of play announced for the same day that this video should come out, and it's rumoured we get even more information. So if you're seeing this, it was recorded before the state of play. I love the Uncharted series, and obviously they're clearly inspired by Tomb Raider, which is inspired by Indiana Jones, which, look, that's a whole rabbit hole I'd rather not go down, to be honest. My point is, Tomb Raider is absolutely my sort of game, even if I haven't played the originals and the reboot trilogy didn't thrill me. But this new era has me very excited. It has a great mix of OG and the grittier reboot. It looks much more like a game, very over the top, very old school, but with a fresh, modern element that reminds me very much of earlier Uncharted titles. I like when games are games and don't try too hard to be movies, and it's great to see Tomb Raider embrace its heritage, but not totally abandon modern sensibilities. The fact that this is a remake of the original game, that is definitely reinventing it, is a great way to introduce all welcome back players to the franchise. But then, to follow it up with Tomb Raider Catalyst, a brand new game in 2027, is bold, confident, and hopefully a brilliant move. I'm very excited for this to arrive later in 2026. In all honesty, when I started writing this list, I genuinely thought I'd put Wolverine much higher. But I think a combination of me not loving Spider-Man 2, don't get me wrong, it's a cool game, a very good game. I just think it's the worst of the 3 Spidey PlayStation titles. So that, combined with the big leaks we got for Wolverine, it has dampened my excitement somewhat. But the positives are, it looks fantastic. I'm a fan of linear games, so the fact this will play out like an Uncharted game or a The Last of Us game is no issue for me. As a side note, I think this would be a really cool game to have 1 or 2 open world style levels like Uncharted 4 had. I'm also a big fan of the violence. I like that separation from the Spider-Man titles. I think superhero IP should live in different genres, whereas I feel the MCU has failed in that regard, particularly in recent years. It's nice to see the games embracing different tones and styles for different heroes. I also think the gameplay could be a lot of fun. I'm loving the actor chosen to play Wolverine, and what we've seen does look pretty damn cool. And I'm hoping to get some big set piece, over the top, action movie-esque gameplay sequences that truly blow me away. I can't wait to sink my claws into this when it launches in late 2026. Also, I know it's not the same developer, but very excited to see more about the Blade video game. So this is the part of the list where I choose to be more hopeful than practical. Sea of Remnants is an amazing looking game visually. It is dripping in style, and the vibes are immaculate. Like many others, I wallow in confusion and dread that we don't have more pirate games, particularly pirate RPGs. But Sea of Remnants is set to remedy this with its insane marionette or puppet characters, its over-the-top animations, and its incredibly wonderful art style. I choose to be optimistic about this game, but early previews back in June 2025 weren't exactly glowing. They do note it seemed to be a very early build of the game, hopefully a much earlier build than what they actually had in June 25, as bugs, crashes, missing assets, and even missing language translations were all present. But hopefully, it comes together to create a wonderful pirate RPG where you assemble a crew, set sail, and do battle against pirates, monsters, and more in both naval and in-person fights. And oh, did I mention it's actually a turn-based combat mechanic? Yeah, that's pretty wild. This is certainly a game we need to see more of, but if they can bring all of these elements together, we're looking at a unique, gorgeous, and exciting adventure on the seas. Look out for more info in 2026, but maybe expect a delay to 2027. Orbitals was shown off just as me and my partner were finishing up Split Fiction, and with how incredible that game is, we're ready for even more co-op action. Enter Orbitals. Orbitals is a co-op intergalactic adventure that takes its styling from 90s anime shows. Players will undergo this adventure as explorers Maki and Amura. They'll take on the dangers of space looking for help to save their home, a space station that's trapped in a supernatural cosmic storm. Orbitals definitely features the same sort of asymmetrical co-op experience that Hazelight has mastered with games like Split Fiction and It Takes Two. But Orbitals looks like it's set to make its own mark on that particular genre. With fresh looking gameplay and puzzle ideas, it seems to fuse space wreckage exploration with spaceship combat, where one player pilots the ship and another mans the guns. And enough cannot be said about how great it looks. The 90s anime aesthetic is really on full display here, reminding me of shows like Gundam and Ranma Half. It's absolutely gorgeous to behold. The game is coming exclusively to the Switch 2 in summer 2026, and I hope we don't have to wait too much longer for a final release date. Anyone that has seen my demo review on this channel knows I really enjoyed The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales. And for good reason. It blends its HD 2D art style with RPGs like the Mana series and a gigantic helping of The Legend of Zelda. I adore Zelda, and to have more Zelda without it being Zelda, well, I just can't say no to that. But it's not merely a clone. I feel that The Adventures of Elliot, the name sucks. It's too long. I get that it's like a play on The Legend of Zelda, The Adventures of Elliot, but it's a mouthful, and from now on I'm just going to call it Elliot. I feel that Elliot treads its own path, and whilst it wears its inspirations proudly, it's not tethered to them. We have dungeons and an open field, and shrines that offer challenges that then reward us with upgrades. But it manages to feel like its own thing. It helps that it has much deeper RPG and equipment mechanics than Zelda, but it's also more about movement. Elliot, the main character, is accompanied by a fairy companion, and unlike Navi, this fairy can do a lot more. You can equip an ability to the fairy that helps Elliot explore the world around him, such as short distance teleporting or dashes. If you're not sold on the trailer, and I wasn't, I do recommend giving the demo a try. It left me really wanting more. I really can't wait for the 18th of June when I can finally get my hands on this game. There's not long at all for this to release, and I'm a big fan of Resident Evil. Resident Evil 8 was good, but it left me wanting just a little. The game focuses on switching between two characters to play as, a system I don't usually like, but Requiem seems like it can succeed where others have failed. One side of the game has you play as Grace Ashcroft, newcomer to the franchise. She's an FBI agent that's a little out of her depth. As Grace, you play very much a horror game as she's chased and tormented by a monstrous figure, much like Nemesis or Mr. X from past titles. Her gameplay will probably feel much more like early Resident Evil 7 and early Resident Evil 2. Lots of running away, puzzles, and very atmospheric scares. But then the other side has the return of the one and only Leon S. Kennedy, and he brings with him the Resident Evil 4 style of gameplay. Leon is a much more experienced and capable character than Grace, and takes the fight to the monsters and zombies. Expect similar gameplay to Resident Evil 4 and 5, much more action-based, but with some puzzles for good measure. It won't be too long until we get more of this title as it launches on the 27th of February. Were you disappointed in the Suicide Squad game? Did you just want another Arkham title? Do you also love Lego? Well, TT Games has got you covered. Lego Batman: The Legacy of the Dark Knight looks absolutely incredible. Look, confession time. I'm not a big fan of the Lego games. In short, I don't think they're very good. Not terrible, but just, well, you know. But I do like Lego, and I love Batman. And the trailers for this have been nothing short of exceptional. I never in my wildest ideas thought we'd see a Lego game with Arkham-style gameplay. Or is that an Arkham game with Lego-style graphics? It's impossible to tell, but either way, they've absolutely nailed marrying these two things together. Adding on top of that the fact it's a celebration of the Dark Knight's movie outings, and probably comic book TV show and game references too, it's an absolute delight and thrill for any Batman fan, young or old. Personally, my partner is also super excited for this game, and I can't wait to run through Gotham in co-op with her. But I'm also equally excited to play with my kids too, as my youngest has just started to get into superheroes, and it's about time I properly introduce him to the Batman. Lego Batman: The Legacy of the Dark Knight is set to launch on the 29th of May. Hopefully, with such a specific release so soon, there'll be no delays. So, before we hit that #1 spot, the most anticipated game on the list, let's do some honourable mentions. Firstly, I'm super excited to learn more about the three, that's right, 3 Square Enix games that have been announced but we know almost nothing about. Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, Kingdom Hearts 4, and Dragon Quest XII. It's really insane to think this company has announced 3 titles coming from arguably its 3 biggest franchises, and we know almost nothing about them. But, you know, gotta keep those shareholders happy. How much are you betting Kingdom Hearts 4 looks nothing like that teaser we got 4 or so years ago? And also, will Dragon Quest XII release before or after they remake every previous Dragon Quest title? Seriously, since that announcement 4 years ago, they've released, or will have released, 7 Dragon Quest titles by time 12 comes out. At least. That's crazy. And as for Final Fantasy VII Part 3, it'll be interesting to see which comes first, that or Final Fantasy XVII. My money is on Part 3, but Square Enix are gonna do what Square Enix are going to do. On to my second and last honourable mention. It's not a game at all. It's the Steam machine. It's hard not to be fascinated by this thing. I generally don't play on PC. I prefer to be sat on a sofa, and I don't really enjoy playing on keyboard and mouse. So the Steam machine seems to be targeted directly at me, especially because there are plenty of indie PC-only titles I'd love to play. Some are even on this list. So, without further ado, my number 1 most anticipated game for 2026. This was much lower before they showed the game off in the January Developer Direct. What a difference several minutes can make. I was thrilled to see that the game was looking really, really good. Now, I'm not without my concerns. Xbox's overall track record with exclusives, if you can even use that word with Xbox anymore, is not great, but it's not awful. Instead of being pessimistic, I'm choosing to be optimistic with this, and I can't help but get excited about every aspect of this game. I think it looks great, its combat and magic look awesome, and it has a garden full of giant vegetables. What's not to like? Whilst some have raised concerns about the morality system as it looks to have removed getting a halo or devil horns, I'm not really too bothered, because they've thoroughly upgraded that system with something far more robust that has each NPC in the whole world react to you on an individualistic basis based on their own set morality. This could set up some really exciting gameplay and narrative options. Maybe quest rewards are different depending on how you're perceived by the quest giver. Or maybe some quests aren't accessible because the NPC thinks you're a rich prick and won't talk to you. Or maybe it's something a little more inconsequential than that. Either way, I'm excited to explore Albion once again and get lost in the series' first truly open world. Thank you if you watched this whole video, and please do comment below, what are you excited for gaming-wise in 2026? And if you want to see even more videos from me, hit subscribe, hit the bell, give a thumbs up, and I hope you have a wonderful, incredible, truly fantastic, game-filled 2026. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.